Memorial Day weekend? Let's talk some heroes. Eddie LeBaron, 1st Lieutenant Marine, 7 months on the front line, fought in many battles, twice wounded in the Battle of Punch Bowl, took shrapnel in his arm and his leg, received Purple Heart and a Bronze Star recipient with Combat V for valor and heroism. In the Battle of Heartbreak Ridge, Eddie LeBaron took over command when another platoon commander was killed, making Eddie LeBaron the Little General and a true American hero. Eddie LeBaron, College of Pacific great. College Hall of Fame, College of Pacific retired his jersey. He's also in the Redskins Ring of Honor, as well as being one of the 80 greatest Redskins. 1952 Rookie of the Year, took over halfway through the season in 1952 for Sammy Baugh. Speaking of Sammy Baugh, so my Gramps was an Air Corps pilot, and then he became a trainer. And he would train Army guys how to fly planes. The planes they would use were called Jennies. They're biplanes, 2 wings, one on top of the other. And they had 2 seats, one behind each other. And him and his pals, they would test the planes. This is early on in aviation history. These guys were crazy. They were daredevils, risk takers. How else are you going to find out if those planes can handle? So they would push the limits. Then after doing that, then they'd fly around the house, go over to their grandma's house and fly around. Then they'd head on over to the bay. And this is before the Golden Gate Bridge was built. And they'd fly under the Bay Bridge. Talk about crazy. Yep, that's what they did back then. Come flying in low along the water. Those planes were really loud. It must have been really cool seeing that, flying under the bridge. 20 years before commercial aviation was around. So it was just them up in the sky. Kind of cool we have all his flight log books. My dad was telling me when they used to go down to spring training in Arizona that they'd go down Highway 5 doing 100 plus. You figure my grandpa was a pilot, so 70-mile-an-hour speed limit, that's not going to work. My dad says he'd be ducking down behind the back seat, scared to death. My grandpa was doing 100 plus, passing 3 and 4 cars at a time. My grandma screaming, "Slow down, slow down." And I could just picture my grandpa saying the same 2 words he always says, "Be quiet," cigar in his mouth. Classic. A lot of good stories about my grandpa driving cars. Some of them not so good. That's what alcohol does. Now back to the man of the moment, Eddie LeBaron. Oh yeah, I think about my Gramps all the time. All the stuff we used to do. Didn't see him too much, but when I saw him, I'd have a lot of fun. He's the only guy that took me fishing. He'd come over to our house a couple times a year, and we'd go over to their house a couple times a year. And I always remember he's a big giant guy, smelling of Old Crow and cigar. He'd bend down, and I was a little long-haired kid. He'd bend down and put his fist right in front of my nose, and he'd say, "I'm gonna bop you right in the nose." And I'd always laugh. I think he was trying to toughen me up because he saw I was a little long-haired kid. He figured I was gonna get picked on. Wrong. Talk about tough. Gramps got in a car wreck and the doctors wanted to take his arm off and he fought them. He said, "No, don't take my arm." He kept it and he was in a locked position though. My dad says he would hold it out and my dad would climb on it and he'd do those little chin-ups. Pretty funny. Thank you for your service.